Okay, let's get started. We start off with your full name and your occupation?
My name is Manuel Tejeda Valdez. At present, I'm a retired justice of the peace. I still sit on the bench when they call me periodically, but I'm retired from being a justice of the peace here in Fort Worth for 33 years.
Okay, thank you. And where did your family come from? And if they were originally here from the U.S., what part of the U.S. did they come from?
My parents or grandparents?
Starting with your grandparents, if you remember.
Well, yeah, my grandparents, they were born here in Texas, outside of San Antonio.
Okay.
Little towns out there, Graytown, Floresville, Cañada Verde,
So your family is originally from South Texas?
Yeah, you could say that, right, in San Antonio. Usually South Texas is kind of looked at it like from on the other side of San Antonio, but it's still South Texas, yeah.
And then your parents were from that area too?
Yes, they were born of my grandparents, of course.
And then you grew up here. You were born here in Fort Worth and grew up here.
No, I was born in San Antonio, as a matter of fact. We didn't come to Fort Worth until when I was about 6 years old.
Okay, and what brought your parents to Fort Worth, and what neighborhoods did you grow up in here?
Yeah, my dad was involved with the federal government, so they shifted that work over to Fort Worth, to a base over here, and so several families from San Antonio came at that time, and they were we came in, and we initially lived in the north side of Fort Worth, but the work base was in the south side at the tail end of Hemphill Street, and that base is still there. After about a year or two, we moved to the south side, so I was raised primarily in the Worth Heights area, south side of Fort Worth.
Okay. And what schools did you attend when you were growing up?
Well, I went to, you're talking about initially what schools, or the predominant ones, or?
The schools that you went through, where you were in elementary school.
Yeah, my first year was in San Antonio. The first grade was at a Catholic school, St. Joseph Catholic School. We didn't know a word of English, all of us, almost, primarily all the students. Came to Fort Worth, and that's when I went into the second grade. And went through elementary at Worth Heights Elementary School. Junior high was Morningside Middle School, and then technical high school for my, for the high school, senior high school. Then on to college. Back then it was Arlington State College, then it became UTA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a quick note on that. So your dad, I'm guessing he did know English since he worked for the federal government.
Yeah, he did. He
But
did.
At home, you spoke Spanish.
We spoke nothing but Spanish at home.
Okay.
Yeah. Grandparents never really spoke that much English, but my parents did. Yeah.
But that probably made you bilingual from keeping it at home.
Yeah. The reason I'm very fluent in Spanish and English is because we learned all our Spanish up until we came into school on the first grade. Yeah.
And in the neighborhoods that you grew up in, do you remember what churches you went to?
Yeah, of course. As a really young guy, up to 5, 6 years old, St. Joseph Catholic School, and then
that's in San Antonio.
Catholic church, and then here in Fort Worth, we came to Immaculate Heart of Mary in the south side. That was primarily our church. That was my church for many years, Then All Saints came into play after I married, and then right after we married, went to St. Patrick Cathedral downtown. My wife and I were married there 42 years ago, so we've been going there since.
Okay, and did you belong to any organizations within the churches that you were in?
Yeah, I was always involved from in youth organizations with all of them through either sports programs, and then as I grew older, because my parents were very active with the church. They were the leaders of those organizations, Catholic church organizations, Guadalupanas, and Altar Society and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. I'm presently in Knights of Columbus. I've been in the Knights of Columbus a long time. There's been about 2 or 3 separate organizations that I've been involved with as far as the Knights of Columbus, and have been involved with the Altar Society and any of the men's organizations that exist in the churches that I've gone to. I was always involved. Yeah.
Okay, and can I have your parents' names and their occupations?
My parents are, they've demised. They've died. They're already. But my dad's name is Manuel Martinez Valdez. I'm Manuel Tejeda Valdez. Back in the day, you had your mother's maiden name as your middle name. Mm-hmm. You didn't have a middle name per se. You had and so Tejeda was my mom's name, Feliz Tejeda, and Feliz Ibarra Tejeda, and that's primarily how they went by. Yeah.
Okay, and can you tell me the names of your siblings in the order that they're age order and where they are now?
Well, I'm the oldest, and the next oldest is Faustina. They call her Tina Valdez, and she's semi-professional. She worked for IBM for many years. She's now with the county and at a top level with Tarrant County of Fort Worth. I had a younger brother. There was a time span of about 10 years, and I had a younger brother after that, David Valdez, and he was murdered at about 19 years old. And then I have a sister, my younger sister, Patricia Hansen. So those are, I only have 2 sisters now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're both in Fort Worth?
Yeah, you could say. Yeah, for sure, Fort Worth. Tina lives in Fort Worth. Keller, where my other sister lives.
Almost Fort Worth.
Yeah, almost Fort Worth, yeah.
And what about your grandparents' names?
My grandparents' name, of course, my granddad was Jesus Tejeda, Don Jesus Tejeda. He was really the patriarch of the whole family, big family. Genoveva was my grandmother, and on my dad's side it was Ambrosio Valdez and Licia Valdez.
Okay. And outside of the church, what community organizations have you belonged to?
Oh my God.
And just, if it's been too many,
yeah.
The most important and
that I would consider the most important? Yeah. Oh my God. As far as community involvement, I was a founder of a youth center back in the day, the Worth Heights Youth Center, which later we expanded into the Worth Heights Multi-Purpose Center and the Multi-Purpose Center concept. I was also involved with founder of a health clinic, the Northside Health Clinic. I was a founding chairperson for that. I was a founding chairperson for Communities in Action group. I was president of the Mental Health Association in Fort Worth. I was on the board of directors of many organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Easter Seals. They're coming to mind. I was founder of the they call Yo Soy project, a very instrumental project in Fort Worth back in the mid '80s. Yo Soy was an acronym for Youth Organized to Serve Our Youth, and it was predominantly Hispanic kids from all over Fort Worth, and introduced to the arts, and it was a major we received a national award for that, and I was the founding chairperson for that. So trying to think some of the others that I was involved with that were, significant, and they might come to mind. I don't know. I'll bring a resume next time.
Maybe very long.
Yeah.
Who were the people that you collaborated with that helped you in these organizations that really
back in the day when I was younger, I'm thinking of people like Gilbert Garcia was, to me, a mentor. Judge Pete Bettis and Judge Harold Valdez, they were influential, I think, in me eventually going into the judgeship. Sam Garcia was a name that was around as also a mentor. Most recent, maybe recent, when I say recent, like 35 years ago, Ramon Guajardo was very influential. He became city manager. Trying to think other folks. The ones that to me were very significant were a lot of my coaches, in baseball. I was a big baseball fanatic and athlete. And so the coaches and Boy Scout masters, and to me were really the ones that influenced me for later years. Because I think it starts, personally, I think it starts at a very young age. That if you become a leader later on, you'll always meet somebody in the arena of leadership. But in the early stages, it's those teachers and coaches and that type of folk. And they're usually not a named person.
Well, since part of we're doing the Oral Histories with TCU's program that's trying to see the crossroads of African American and Mexican American history in Fort Worth and in Texas in general. What are your memories in your life of Black and Brown relations in Fort Worth?
They hardly existed. First of all, in the early stages, through high school, because it was segregated. It wasn't integrated until after I graduated. I graduated in 1964, and I think 65 is when they started to integrate the schools. And so we didn't have any contact with the African American community and even people, in general. Shortly after that, we began to experience friendships with the Black community, and I'm a lover of music, and I love all kinds of music, and soul music was really one of those that I really was attracted to. And so I was one of the few that attended many of the concerts that were just in the Black community. I'd go to that concert, and then me and my girlfriend were the only Hispanics there, but I did get to know quite a few through those friendships, through the music, the love of music. And so I personally was able to get to know their culture a great deal, because I lived into it, And so politically, I didn't get involved with that until years later. I joined the Marine Corps. There you get exposed to the Black community, at least the males, and how they think and how they, they live their lives and so forth. So you share a lot of that in the military. That was really the first major exposure. Then after that, after I got out of the service, out of the Marine Corps, I stayed 1 year in LA, and there I really got involved with the music and these big bands. And Tina Turner was a good friend of mine, and Carlos Santana, those type of folks, and they were having those concerts back in the day. I used to just, I was attracted to that style, and I got involved. I was single, and so I really became knowledgeable of their lifestyle, And when I came back to Fort Worth, I became involved, in the community with social programs. I founded the youth center. I organized baseball teams, girls and boys, and young men and men. I was an organizer of those sports, and I even organized in college. I got all the folks together because I knew how to organize. Then involved with the social programs, I really became knowledgeable, and because I had a clue about the African American community, I was able to get involved with them, and I even marched with them a few times here and there, and with friends that I knew.
Can I ask you what the marches were for and what organizations?
Back in those days, they were all for the same thing: equality, fairness, protest, some of the things that were happening in the city, that came off as anti-minority, so, and then, I was in the fringes of all organizations. I was always in the fringes, always, initially as a young man. Even the highly active ones, Raza Unida and LULAC, and I was president of Image back in the day, and that was another organization that was to lift, and we'd partner up with some of the black community leaders.
Do you remember any of the black community leaders that you partnered up with, or the names of the organizations?
Trying to think specifically. These organizations were mostly church affiliated. I don't remember like the Black Panthers or organizations of that nature that were very strong and up front. I can't remember exactly the names. These were mostly community, people that were leaders in their churches would organize and protest make an event protesting something that happened with the city, or how they were not treated equally in certain places. And so there weren't any big names that were out, because Fort Worth doesn't have this is not a radical city, let me tell you. Yeah. Dallas was, but not Fort Worth.
Yes, Dallas was a little bit. Do you have any more comments or anything else that you would like to share with us?
Well, I mean, for one, I really, I just heard about this, about a week ago, and things like this really elate me, and they get me excited about how we're starting to pay attention to our culture and trying to share our culture with others, and the acceptance of doing this, because there are many, not years ago, this wouldn't have been accepted very well. Mm-hmm. We couldn't be doing this, that easily. And so now, to me, this is a breaking of a new ground that's in the early stages. We're in the embryo stage of what's coming in the future, and this is embryo stuff, And so I can see that from the vantage point of being involved from way back to being involved today, and being in a political position for 33 years, elected. And so I've been privileged, by the people because they were the ones that had me in office for all this long. And I could have been there till I was 90 years old, really. But we're playing a role, you know. I've been very fortunate because of the title of judge to be included, involved in almost every aspect of the city of Fort Worth. I mean, I can walk in with that title in any organization, any place. And so, and because of my being involved in the Vietnam War, you know, fighting for this country. And so I can walk in any room and there's not one single person that is above me. I fought for this country, and there's very few that I walk into all these halls of leaders that did fight for this country. And so under that condition, you know, my philosophy, the way I carry myself is there's nobody above me, even if they try to kind of attempt to reflect that they're more than I. Mm-hmm. No way. And so I think we're all going in that direction, you know, because we have a lot to offer. And this country is going to be a great country because we really know how to attempt to take care of it. We appreciate what's here, you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your comments with us and your thoughts.
All right.
Your experiences.
Yeah.
I just have to sign